Come on, Chip.
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably good. All right, guys. Chris Waters here on the GameSpot stage still. Sam from IndieCade still sitting in here as we take a look at some more awesome indie games featured through the Indie Games Showcase, IndieCade Showcase here at E3. On the couch now, we've got Ichiro from Dejobon Games and Zyba from Pop Cannibal, and you guys are here to show off a whole new game that has like a really evocative and stirring title.
Sure. We're here to show off Elegy for a Dead World.
Elegy for a Dead World. Man.
It is a game in which you are a writer, and the conceit of the game is you explore long-dead civilizations based on the works of British Romance-era poets, and then you write about them.
Oh, okay. So, so you find the source material in like Xanadu or something like that?
Yeah, so we got three. Well, I'll let Zyba talk about the source material.
Three British Romance poets. Shelley, Keats, and Byron, and they each wrote these really moving poems about end times, the end of the world, and their end of their lives. So we get this real good, brooding feel about where's man's place on Earth, and it really sets the tone for writing.
Yeah, rough beasts slouching around and all that.
You know your stuff.
I know one or two things that I can reference in a pinch. You guys just provided me with the perfect opportunity. Thank you. All right, so we're taking a look here at Elegy for the Dead World, and set the stage for us, Zyba. Where are we at?
So you walk along, you observe what you will want to perceive or imagine was the story of this place. And to help people out when you first get started, we have what we're calling prompts, these sort of story fragments. It's like an advanced Mad Libs at first, because giving someone a blank page is terrifying and insulting. You're like, here's a piece of paper, write me a story.
You're like, well, I thought that was your job. You're the developers.
Right, so we're going to give you a start, something to get your mind going. And so here, 50,000 years ago, long before blank, this land was home to great people. Long before what?
The sunset.
Yes, the
Ooh, I
sunset.
like that.
I mean, I don't know if it was the orange sky or the...
So we're halfway on the way to our Nobel Prize for Literature. So you travel through, and that was the first of 14 prompts here. And you can fly a little, because you are a space traveler. And you go from prompt to prompt, developing your story and investing. The more decisions you make, the more invested you are in the world, and the more you're going to you get halfway through, and often players will have a strong idea of the world, and they'll start to be like, oh, this guy's prompt is all wrong. I know the next one should actually be, and that's why you can just erase the prompts and write, whatever you want.
No kidding. All right,
or
so
you can even spell it out.
whatever ver. No, that sort of had a poetical casualness to it. I liked it. You're writing, that prompts you to move through, see the landscape sort of do this shifting, and I imagine, on the E3 stage show, hearing game audio isn't really something we get to do, but I imagine there's some audio going on that the folks at home are watching.
Yeah, sure. Some gorgeous atmospheric stuff, right?
Yeah, we wanted to keep it very light because it's very easy to overwhelm the player, right? You're exploring this civilization that's just dead, and you're writing about it, so we wanted something smooth and droney and maybe a little eerie.
Something to sort of, be a little background, set a little background tone. Well, Sam, I got to say, I can see immediately why you guys were intrigued with the synopsis that you've received for this game and decided to give it a closer look.
Exactly.
So have you played it yourself, and have you written your way through some Dead Worlds?
I have played one of the levels, which I did when we were reviewing it for games. Again, you actually got it exactly right. When we were deciding which ones to look at, it was the synopsis, write your way through a Dead World. We were like, oh, we should look at that a little bit more. Yeah, it's a really, for me, atmospheric and moving experience. What I ended up finding is that the thing that really made us decide to show it after even considering it is it's incredibly beautiful to look at. The music really is sort of moving, and the atmosphere is very strong, and it evoked feelings in me, which, again, like lots of things evoke feelings in us, right? But this is something that I'm very interested in happening in games. It's this evocation of mood, of feeling, of ideas, and what I found is very much what Zyba was talking about, is that I would sort of fill in the prompts, and then after the first 3 or 4, I was like, okay, now I'm like inspired. I have a story about this world inside me, and I can start getting it out.
You get a little bit of momentum yourself, not just as, as the player and as a player and as a writer, and even if, I don't know how often you identify yourself as a writer, but we've all got that kind of expression in us.
Yeah.
And is that what you're kind of trying to tease out here?
Right. Well, we want the most important thing is that someone sits down and has a positive experience doing something creative. So we really avoid doing any sort of scoring or any kind of hand slapping, because writing can be personal and frightening enough without attaching a score or anything negative to it.
Are you talking about GameSpot's review process? Because it really sounds like you are.
Ouch.
It's resonating deeply with me right now.
Well, as long as you give us 100, then we're fine.
We rate on a scale of 10. Thank you, Ichiro.
Yeah, well,
please.
I know that. I
Please.
want 100.
Ambitious. I like it. So now you sort of ducked inside there, and you came out, and these feathers have been scrolling below, and those are the prompts.
Right.
But you can choose to engage them or not.
Right.
So that's why, you know, what is that? What kind of feeling does that convey to the player if they can choose to do that, or they can choose to just be doing other stuff, exploring, et cetera, et cetera?
Most players that I've seen play this, they approach it and they immediately feel out of their element because they haven't done anything before. And when they see a instruction that says something, you know, here's you can write, people will stop at everyone and write. And so we actually giving liberties to players is something that they aren't abusing because they're sort of tepidly wading into it and they'll understand it. And once they understand it, we want them to feel like it is their page to write on. We have a mode where there are no pre-made prompts, there's no feathers, and you can write anywhere. And that's for the professionals. And the people who come to us and like, I write for a living, I'm going with this mode. I've seen them sit down and write 3 pages at every stop they go.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So almost letting players use it as, like a tool to avoid writer's block, just a creative endeavor, outside of the whole, even the fiction of these worlds and this place that you've created.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Gosh, that's really intriguing. And so now we've been looking at this one world, and you said there are 3. What was the inspiration, for you yourself to tease these worlds out of these works of literature, and then to, basically enter into this agreement with the player where you, the developer, have done some creating, but you are also saying you gotta come here and create with me.
Right. Yeah, well, Chiro and I, we sat down at the beginning trying to just do something really quick, right? And we drew out on these sheets of paper our interpretations of these poems in terrible scrawls. And we took them to the kitchen.
Right.
And we showed them to...
a colleague of ours, Eric Asmussen of 82 Apps. And so we actually sat down and Zyba said, look, we're doing a game about writing and reading. Let's do dead Romance era poets, which, okay, that sounds good. And so we took
There are a lot of them.
they're all dead now.
Yeah.
So as Zyba said, we took them down and we put them down on paper and we scrawled and we said to our colleague, can you tell what the story of all of this is based on what we wrote? And what was fascinating about it is that we took, for example, Ozymandias, the poem. You find a statue in the desert of a guy who's like, hey, I'm all that. But he really isn't all that because his statue is dead in the desert. And we wrote that out on paper as an imagery, and our colleague interpreted that and created an entirely different story. And we thought that was fascinating and powerful.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting that you there's a couple layers of interpretation happening there, right? Between, you and the poem and your colleague. Do you guys have any way in Elegy for a Dead World to share or to invite other players into your sort of experience?
Well, everything is actually in Steamworks. So when you upload a story at the end, it's a Steam Workshop item, and therefore your Steam identity is attached to it, and all the tools for commenting and discussing and sharing those items are available to you.
Interesting. And but that's not, someone downloading that item and seeing the story I wrote out necessarily, right?
Well, so in Steam, you have the option to go into the menu and say, add this to the list of items. Just like if you're playing Portal, and you're like, oh, I want this extra level, you select it through their menus, you go back to your game, and it is there for you.
Yeah.
So if you go, say, to your friends playing it, you can see in their workshop items, they have these stories like, oh, yeah, this one and this one. You go back into the game now, your friends' items are there.
It's really a matter of just sharing stories. If you wrote a story...
Okay, so this story does actually share.
Yes.
So I could read Ichiro's story, and as I'm going through, it would sort of illuminate as well. Very interesting.
We have a whole separate reading mode where we actually show the stories that are written in a sort of a stylized fashion with whatever shader effects we can muster up to, give you a sexy page-by-page. Here's some...
Like a graphic novel.
Yeah, like a graphic novel. As sexy as we can make text in a background be, which I think it's pretty sexy with the artist we got.
Is pretty sexy.
Yeah.
I mean, this art is lovely for certain. And can you give us a hint of sort of some of the other aesthetics in other areas before we wrap up here?
Yeah, so we actually have a kiosk, or sorry, exit kiosk mode. Show you the secret. Keats' World, my favorite poem of the ones in here. And this is, Keats was writing about the end of his life and wanting to capture everything that was there. So this is a world that is very actually constructed and informed more by the people made there in a very intentional, we have designed this world type of way. But as you pass through, you'll see the world break down and see the creator's failure to complete his mission. And that's that. It's a separate sad feeling than our previous one.
Well, it seems like, I mean, Elegy for a Dead World, certainly a fascinating way to use games way to use that interactive medium to delve into emotion like this, to delve into the creative act of writing and the expressive act of writing. Thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing this with us.
Thank you.
And you said it was on Steam. Soon on Steam. And going to be part of the IndieCade Showcase Festival later this year?
Maybe. So the way it works is the stuff at E3 is all still being considered.
Oh,
so
okay.
A bunch of it could be at IndieCade Festival, none of it could be at IndieCade Festival, and I can't say one way or the other.
All right, well, speaking specifically for Elegy for a Dead World, where can folks follow for more information on that?
All right, you can go from the Dejobaan website. That's DEJOBAAN.com.
All right, that's where to check that out. And for IndieCade, if people want to keep track of submissions and check out games that you guys are considering?
Yeah, just our website's IndieCade.com. It's got a database of every game we've ever shown in the past, and as we start to announce stuff for the festival, it'll all go up there.
Excellent. Well, Sam, Ichiro, thank you guys so much for coming on and showing off this beautiful game here at E3. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the end of GameSpot's live coverage from the E3 stage show floor situation here 2014. We've got one more demo to come up here. It's going to be very colorful and very fun, so stick around for that. And then it's up to the GameSpot War Room for the wrap show to wrap it all up. Don't go away.